In Death Door, there's only one way to avoid getting hit: dodging. You can't use a shield, you can't wear armor, you can't level up and have more HP, you can only dodge hits with invincibility frames while moving out of the attack. And I'm taking that away, since it was the only possible follow-up after this intro. I remapped dodge to a user's button, so I don't have to open heart surgery my controller, and we can begin the challenge with the first enemy that is also the first boss fight. Its first attack is a root slam, that is really telegraphed, so we can just not be under the tentacle when it falls down and we won't get hit. But then it will start spinning, and here we can still deal damage, but if we do it we have to be very close, and if we bump into them we get hit. So we need to be careful. In that regard, if we get hit we will always take 1 damage, and we only have 4 HP with no way to regenerate some during fights. So we aren't tanky at all, and even in this first fight we need to pay attention. Like the opposite of what I'm doing now, getting hit twice by the same attack. But as you can see, we have a couple of invincibility frames after getting hit, so we can take it out. And finishing the tutorial fight with only 1 HP feels like the game is going to do to me what that crow is going to do to the protagonist. The normal areas aren't that hard without dodging, we just have to be a bit more careful, and we will mostly need to defeat all enemies, since running through them isn't as easy. So I'll mostly gloss over them if not for the hardest parts, but here we came to a stop. The game treats this part like it's still the tutorial, and they want to make sure we know how to play, and by that I mean that we are forced to do a roll attack. I tried going around, reloading the area, quitting the game, but if we don't roll attack, the Undertaker here won't move out of the way, so we are forced to do it and to technically fail the challenge, but I swear I'll get my revenge. Also, I obviously will keep on doing the challenge, they need more than a tutorial to stop me. Still, nothing too challenging in the tutorial area up until the Door Guardian, that killed me like a bunch of times. It's basically the first real fight, and already we have to manipulate the game a bit in order to win. If we just get close and try to attack, we will get hit almost always, because its wings are too big and have a bit of an AoE. But if we get close, it will try to attack, so we can bait the attack, walk back to avoid it, and get him to hit before it can swing again. After a bit it will fly back and do a laser attack, and it's kind of hard to see on video, but while this is happening we are constantly being pushed away from it. There are like wind waves that show it, but it's actually pretty substantial. As you can see, we have a ranged weapon, but how that works is that every time we shoot an arrow, we use 1 white dot on the top that I call skill point from now on, and we regenerate a point every time we hit something with a melee attack. We will get more magic and skills later, but we will talk about them when they come up. I believe that the best way to deal damage with the least amount of risk is to use the bow as long as we have skill points, and use melee attacks to regenerate them, but this means that at least half our damage will be done with the sword. Rocket Raccoon's moving castle falls, and the old crows explains us the story of the game that is actually kinda cool, but like, buy the game and play it if you want to hear it. The game is fire, so it's worth it. He said it! He said the title! Pog! We can go towards the first major boss, the Urn Witch, where we meet the second coolest NPC, and they have to point out that this game came out before Elden Ring. Now I want to see Alexander full of soup. After some puzzles, we could just kick the manor door open and get in to kill an old woman, but we would like to get a new weapon first, and in order to do that, we have to defeat Smog's cousin. I died a bunch of times here, because he's really aggressive and his attacks have a big AoE, so I couldn't dodge them at first, but then I realized that we can avoid them if we just walk around him at the right speed, because if we are behind him when he starts to attack, and we keep on running, his wings will not track us and will just go on the place that was previously behind him, and that works for all 3 hits in his sequence. After he swings 3 times we can hit him back, and with that he falls, so we can get to the weapons. We want to use them because they attack faster than the sword and deal less damage, but we still regenerate 1 skill point per hit, so if we plan to use mostly ranged weapons, they are pretty good. To proceed in the manor we have to find 4 different crow souls, and before each of them there's a fight, fight, so I'll show you the fight because it makes sense. There are some puzzles and minor fights along the way, but if I start showing all of them, this video will have a driving license by the time it's over, and not being able to dodge isn't really relevant there. For the first crow we have to fight a mini boss, and we can only hit him in the tongue to deal damage, so we have to fight him head on, but one of his attacks is putting a shield down, and since now we have a 6-hit combo with the new weapons, we can break his guard and also deal damage. It looks really scary because we risk being eaten half the time, but his attacks are actually pretty easy to avoid, and we save the first crow. The second one is a bit weird, in that there are 2 fights and not in an enclosed space. So first we have to defeat the big pot, that killed me a couple of times, because when he starts to engage, he will dash towards us with a huge hitbox, and to avoid that we would want to be far away, but after he stops spinning, it's the only opening we have to deal damage, so we need to be close. After that, he simply bounces around, so we can avoid it easily, and he doesn't have that many HP, but we need a lucky dodge to take him out. Then we have to go through a dark room full of bats, and we need the sword here because the daggers need 2 hits to take them out, whereas the sword only needs 1. 2 crows down, and then we have the hardest fight so far. It's the same shield guy from before, but 2 of these basic enemies are there, and they will keep on spawning, so we can't take him out beforehand. The fight instantly becomes a mess, because they chase us around without leaving us space to breathe. We could try to use some spacing, take them both out, and only then attack the mini boss, in that small time window before they respawn, but that means the fight is going to be longer, and thus there are more chances to take damage. So I went for a more reckless approach, by going all in on the shield guy until he falls. This means that we will get hit by attacks that we could have easily dodged, and we will feel really silly, but it works out pretty well. Also, I'm using the sword since it can take out the goons with just 2 hits, and yeah, we want to go all in, but more in short bursts than by just standing still attacking. If we do that, we will simply fail. Then we have to do the same fight but with 2 sorcerers, and it's not that big of a deal since their attacks are infrequent and easy to dodge. After that, we can open the door and get into a chest, where we have to defeat 4 waves of enemies to get a new skill. Wave 1 is not a problem, there are some ranged enemies and we can just reflect their attacks, so we don't even have to get in melee range to defeat them. Then some purple guys that will chase us and blow themselves up will spawn, and let's not think too much about what that means world building wise. The third wave is basically the same as the first one, only the enemies are a bit more aggressive, and then we have to defeat the shield guy with a bunch of enemies around. Thankfully, these enemies won't respawn, so we can take them out slowly one by one, and then we know the mini boss very well at this point, so it's not a problem. We get the ability to shoot flames. It differs from the bow mostly because these can go through multiple enemies. With that, we go into the furnace, and honestly nothing relevant here except for this plague doctor looking enemy that will not only shoot bombs at us from a distance, but when they explode they have toxic gas, and if we stay in it for too long, and spoiler alert, it often happens since we can't dodge, we will get hit again. Thankfully, once you are melee range, he only has 1 attack and is really slow, so you just have to get close. We made it to the granny, and we can finally have a proper boss fight. It begins with her teleporting around and throwing pots. If it's a purple pot, it blows up, so we have to keep running in order to dodge it. If it's a green pot, it shoots out a projectile, so we can just ignore it until she blinks away and then we reflect it. Then she will get into the pot. At first we can't do anything about it, because she has a huge AoE when she bounces on the ground, but then she starts to shoot in a spiral, so we can damage her at first and then run away so that we can reflect the projectiles more easily. She will then loop these 3 phases, only that it's a bit faster, and in the first one there will be more green orbs all over the place, so we may have to stop and deal with them. We don't really have much time or windows to use ranged attacks, but I still went for the faster hitting weapons, because I believe it's easier to reflect projectiles with them, since the swings come out faster and are more frequent. Also, by this point I'm almost only leveling up physical damage. Yeah, I didn't quite mention it, but there are 4 statistics we can improve, and this is why she falls after a hard but actually not that long of a fight. We then get on the best public transport known to man, and we reach the overgrown ruins. A new puzzle mechanic we have here is needing to hit these flowers, that in return will shoot a bomb at us, that we need to blow up walls or enemies. I am mentioning it because since we can't dodge, we have to wait for it to come close and then get out of the way at the last possible second. Not really hard, but somewhat scary, especially when we are at 1 HP. A new enemy introduced here are these goons but with masks. They have the same attack as the normal ones, where they stand still and try to push us. That is already a bit hard to deal with, since the moment we engage with them we are basically forced to kill them with one combo or else we will get hit, but now they can also jump towards us if we are too far away. That has a huge AoE and tracks us pretty well. We can dodge it most of the time if we keep running in a straight line, but this means they are dangerous both up close and at a distance. After that we get the horn and we can go into the mushroom dungeon, where we have to, again, get 4 souls in order to proceed. In these soul rooms we will have more of a wave-like structure than a single hard mini-boss blocking our way, and in the first one we have to defeat a bunch of small enemies, nothing too hard since we even have the bombing flower that can help us. For the second soul we are introduced to a new strong enemy that is almost a mini-boss. It's this knight with a shield that will throw us bombs at a distance and that has a pretty fast double swing when close, so we can only get 2 hits in after baiting an attack without getting it back, but we can get in pretty freely with the bow, since after we connect the first couple of melee hits the shield will break. The third soul is basically the same fight in a different arena, but the fourth one is kinda tough. The first 2 waves are not a problem. It's a knight with a couple of sorcerers, so we can even reflect their range attacks, and then it's a couple of normal enemies and some archers. But then 3 knights spawn and it's kind of a mess. The arena is made of narrow corridors, so every time we run past them we risk getting hit. They keep on spamming ranged attacks, so we are kind of always cornered, and when we get close they will always swing a bit misaligned, so we don't have a good window to hit. At first we can use the fireball to break their shields, and it works very well, and we can brawl a bit with them trading hits, so that one of them will fall just by ranged attacks and we can get all of them close together. Now we want to be a bit cheeky, because if we stay away from them sometimes they mess up their pathing and they fall on the water, dying on the spot, and then it's a 1 versus 1, so we can win the fight, granting us access to the door. But first we can take the Thunder Hammer along the way, and then we can enter the second Avarice. As before, we have to defeat 4 waves of enemies, and we use the hammer for now, because it has good range, it attacks slowly but it deals a lot of damage, and most importantly, when an enemy is hit, a small thunder will deal damage to all other enemies around, so we can hit enemies that are scary in melee from a distance. In wave 2 we switch back to the daggers, because this big archer shoots rapidly, so we want to run around him and get a fast hit in when we can. Then we can use the Plague Doctor to clear wave 3 for us and freely take him out in melee right after. Wave 4 is just a bunch of sorcerers, so nothing too scary, and we now have the bomb spell, that we will basically only use for puzzles since it costs 2 skill points and it can also damage us. The Flooded Fortress isn't that hard, we just have to not jump in the water, and it's probably easier to do if we don't roll, but we have to defeat enemies while we make our way forward, else they will pile up and chase us, and it becomes kind of a nightmare as soon as we have a room where we have to kill everyone inside, but we don't really lose anything by dying and shortcuts stay unlocked, so we can just take it slowly and we make it to the boss. The Frog King is really cool, and not only because he's a frog, but the fight isn't hard at all. In phase 1 he will jump around and then slam down his mace, that for some reason has a super small hitbox, and we just have to hit his back 3 times to put him into phase 2. Now he has 2 attacks. If he's on top of the screen he will shoot bombs, if he's on the bottom he will try to hit us. When he tries to do that we can use the bomb spell, so that he hits the bomb and gets stunned for a bit, and we can do it as many times as we want. After every attack he will jump in the arena, so we can hit him while he does that, and every time he switches sides we have to shoot the mace on his back to restore the broken tiles, but as I said, it's really easy and he quickly falls. Second boss soul obtained, and we can go towards the last dungeon, but along the way I defeated another big knight and got a magic shrine. There are 8 of each kind in the game, and when we find 4 of them we will get either 1 more skill point or 1 more HP, so they are pretty useful. We then proceed towards the stranded sailor, and after that we get into Castle Lockstone, where we have to find our usual 4 souls. There are some puzzles involving lasers here that might look hard without dodges, but we can't roll through the laser anyway, and most of them become really easy if you realize you can just hit switches with the bow through the lasers, so no problem with them. In the first soul room, we are introduced to a new enemy, this cool and tough Viking looking guy. They are pretty dangerous, because when they swing, they step forward, so they have huge range, and they can turn around in between their attack sequence. Thankfully, in this arena we can find ice spikes around, and we can just hit them to regain skill points, so we can take the Viking out without going in melee range, and this works for all the waves in this fight. The second arena doesn't give us this luxury, but there aren't any Vikings either. We just have to defeat a couple of sorcerers, then a knight, and then a golden knight that is just like the knight, only he has more HP. Nothing to worry about. For the third soul though, we are forced to learn how to actually fight the Viking, but to my surprise it wasn't incredibly hard. His attacks come out really fast and he turns around quickly, so we can't sneak in hits here and there. But if we just space him out correctly, he will simply miss his 2 hits and he has no more tricks or options. We can just get in, hit a couple of times and get out. And after we do it twice, the third soul is ours. The final fight was definitely easier than the previous one, meaning that I probably messed up the order in which I'm supposed to do them, but we take those. And a couple of Vikings later we can get the last soul and get into the door, where we need to beat the final Avarice. Wave 1 begins with a red sorcerer that we can stun lock and I don't even want to know what he's capable of. Then we just clear a couple of goons, and phase 2 has some boomerang throwing guys. They are kinda tanky, so it takes a while to defeat them, but their only meaningful attack is jumping and then coming down with an AoE, and most of the time they won't even aim at us, they just jump around. Wave 3 has a Viking along with some projectile spamming enemies, but this means we can just reflect the green orbs and defeat the Viking with only them and some arrows, then we clean up the rest. The final wave of the final Avarice has another one of the huge knights, and thank the Lord of Doors I already learned how to defeat them, or else I would have had to repeat this fight countless times. But as we know, we just have to run around him and be exactly behind him when he swings. He attacks at a fixed rhythm, so it shouldn't be too hard. With that, we get the last and coolest spell, the Hookshot, that allows us to grapple on poles and most importantly enemies. Here we could just run to the summit to face the third and final soul bearer, but we want to take a couple of upgrades. First of all, we can follow the steps of a riddle to blow up some walls and unlock the greatsword, that has the longest range and damage of all the weapons, even though it's pretty slow. And then we want to upgrade our Hookshot. There is a secret fight we can enter, and this boss is really tough. If we try and stand behind him, we will get hit, because he has a huge swipe when he turns around attacking, so we want to be right in front of him, and he will always do the same attack sequence. At first he smashes his weapon to the ground, then he goes for a thrust aimed at us. If we move to the side at the right time, we can avoid his second attack, and then we can get in for some damage ourselves. Often he will dash between the poles outside the arena, but this is mostly useless since his attacks will always be a jump from the top one, and he can also stun us if he slams his weapon to the ground. But this one doesn't have a follow-up, and we can just spam attack to get out of it and hit him back. There's a boss fight like this for each of the 4 spells, but we only need this one. And with this defeat we get the improved Hookshot, that allows us to have a huge, and I mean huge, swipe if we attack while we hooked something. We can proceed to the top now, and this is definitely the hardest area so far, but thanks to the Hookshot and the greatsword we can take out most enemies really fast. And it's not that there's a particularly hard enemy or single fight, it's tough in general, but nothing really stands out. Also we are like probably 20 minutes into the video, so allow me to fast forward a bit. The sections on ice are always really fun, even though not being able to dodge means we can't control our momentum quite as much. And now we have to fight Betty. Oh man, this isn't going to be fun, huh? Here I got absolutely bodied, because the fight is hard in general, but there's one attack I couldn't figure out. At the end of every attack sequence, Betty turns into a ball and rolls, while mocking us because we can do it, and I found this almost impossible to avoid. She's really fast, the attack is aimed at us and stops tracking the moment she starts moving, so we can't run around her, and she not only rolls 3 times, but she will use it really often, so we can't just tank it and hope to deal deal enough damage. I very rarely managed to avoid it by running, and sometimes I didn't take damage if I hit her with the hookshot, but it was like once every 30 uses and it wasn't reliable at all. Something needed to change. So first of all I went to find all the shrines so I have max HP, and I couldn't get max skill points because there is a special knight guarding the last shrine that puts poison around him, so it's very hard to defeat him without dodging. And then I had to level my speed to the max, so I guess it makes sense talking about what we can upgrade in this game. There are 4 characteristics. You deal more damage with melee weapons. You can charge attacks and charge magic faster, and it takes less to start a new attack sequence in melee. You dodge faster, can dodge more often, and what matters to us, your base movement speed is higher. You deal more damage with skills and magic. For the Betty fight we need the movement speed, because else we can't dodge the roll reliably, and I believe that we still do mostly melee damage, so I leveled that up, but don't quote me on that. The last thing we need in this fight is the empowered fireball, and as you can imagine this is the boss that we need to beat to get it, and luckily it's an early game fight so it's not that hard. Now we can fight Betty, and I guess the actual last thing we need is a lot of patience and maybe some skill or luck. Maybe both. The empowered fireball deals some more damage over time, and I like it in this fight because we have very few chances to hit melee, so we want to make every skill point count. Is the empowered bow better? Honestly, I am not sure and I didn't test it. We need the greatsword in this fight, because we can only hit Betty's arms, since if we go for the body we will always get hit in return, and the greatsword has both the highest range and damage per hit. In the fight we want to hit her once and then run away. She will jump, we can hit her, then she does some more melee attacks, then jumps again, so on and so forth. And after 3 jumps she will roll. To dodge the roll we want to run as far away from her as we can, and when she starts moving, change direction and go 90 degrees to the side. If we do it properly and we had enough distance to begin with, we will be able to barely avoid the attack. But if she starts it when we are too close, she will always hit us. And if she hits us, we have a bit of lag before we can move again, so she will 100% hit us with all the follow-up rolls she has. And since we have 6 HP and she rolls 3 times, 2 mistakes and we are dead. When we deal enough damage, she will also throw snowballs at us, that come out pretty fast but aren't really hard to dodge if you are waiting for them, and we can usually hit her with a fireball after a roll sequence, since if we are far away she will always go for the snowball, so we can hit and dodge. If we are really fighting with the flow and have perfect spacing, we can usually hit her twice and thus use 2 fireballs before she starts to roll again. So as you can imagine, this fight will take a long time. After even more damage, she will go into phase 3, where snowballs will periodically fall from the sky and she will stop and shout more often. And honestly, when they are falling we can't do much. We try to dodge them, but usually we have such small available space to avoid the rolls that if we get unlucky and one of them is on our way, we will get hit. All these attacks are what made the fight barely doable, and I have to say it wasn't as frustrating as I feared it was going to be, but I was scared I had to drop the challenge here at first. Also, no way we could have done that without 4 or 5 points in movement speed. We have the 3 souls, but the crow goes mad since there's too much exposition without a skip button and we have to take him out. His attacks mostly involve running at us, that we can dodge reliably, dashing around with chains that if managed to hit us we messed up pretty badly, and flying down at us. To dodge his plunge we need to run towards him at first and then swiftly turn around, so that we can chase him and attack, since often he will stop and scream, and then we need to disengage to reflect the flying beaks, but it's not that hard. After he takes some damage, he will add 2 dangerous attacks to his kit. In one he will throw what I can only describe as a portable black hole that will drag us in, slowing us a lot, will damage us when it lands, and also if we are close to it when it explodes. This means though that we can break it, and to do that we can use a ranged attack or simply reflect a beak towards it. The sword technically works, but we take damage if we do it. At least it takes him a very long time to throw it, so if our positioning is good we can hit him a bunch of times and then freely break it. In the other one, while he shouts, he summons small birds that will block our ranged attacks and most importantly will slow us down a lot. To get rid of them we just need to use our sword, but in the heat of the fight fight we usually don't have enough time to swing and dodge, but if we don't swing we will get hit, so we will probably lose 1 HP when he does that. You can't see the slow very well on video, but trust me, we basically come to a full stop when that happens. The fight is pretty hard, but he doesn't have a roll attack, so we can take him out. No foreshadowing at all. And now I came here to beak worms and kill gods, and aim all out of worms. Crows do eat worms, right? This fight is kind of strange. It begins with us skirmishing in this small arena, but after we deal enough damage he will run away and we won't see this place anymore. There is now a chase sequence, where we have to run after him, dodging bulls that have a door for a face, or like doors that have a bull for a body. Dodging here would be useful, but they always spawn in the same pattern, so with precise movement we can easily avoid them. Then we have to fight him again, but now not only he has his standard 3-hit combo, but he will throw pots at us during the fight. As a rule of thumb, we want to always be in front of him after his last jump, because else he has a turnaround attack that will catch us most of the time. Enough damage done and another chase sequence begins, where we have to dodge even more bulls, and honestly it's pretty fun. Second fight, and now after his attacks he will jump 3 times, summoning these wave-like attacks that are really hard to dodge since they are very unpredictable. I know it doesn't look like it on screen, but I assure you, take a swing at the game and you'll see for yourself that they are not easy. Also, if we die during these fights, we respawn at the beginning of the first chase sequence, so the very first fight was kinda useless. Even more doors that we have to dodge, and we have to fight him for the 3rd time in Betty's arena. And yes, he has the roll attack. But thankfully it's really easy to dodge. It takes him way more time to charge it up, so we can comfortably run away and then to the side to avoid it. We can defeat him again, and now we get healed and we have one last fight. Also, if we die now we just have to do this part of the fight. We can get some free hits in at the beginning because the arena isn't blocked off, and then the fun begins. His attacks are now a combination of the attacks from before plus some new ones. As before, the roll isn't a problem. We can avoid it even if we are really close when he tries to do it, and he will always roll once, so a mistake is only 1 HP. He can stun us, as the skill power-up bosses did, but if we mash out of it we just get 3 hits on him. Among his new attacks, he has the same laser the Door Guardian had, only that some door bulls will be in the arena. To avoid this one, I want to be at the very top, where we have to move precisely since the laser will be close, but it's a blind spot for the bulls. Keeping him constantly burning with the fireball is a good way to always be doing some damage, because often we may have to dodge for a while without having a chance to hit, but some other times we have very big windows, so we need to always be ready and close to him in order to capitalize on those chances. I found these first 2 sequences to be always the same, and then he started to mix them up a bit. I don't know if it's a damage thing, if it's randomness, or if he still has set sequences, only they are so long that I couldn't figure them out. In this fight there's a lot to avoid and to track, so taking some incidental damage will happen at some point, since the dodge here is almost a get out of jail free card, and to add to the chaos, after some damage he has a new attack, where he charges up and then explodes. If we see it coming, it's a free fireball hit for us. If we don't see it coming, it will almost for sure damage us, so I found very useful always running in and out. We run in, try and see if we can do a full attack sequence. If we can't, we disengage running away, and if we can, we do it and then instantly run away. If we wait to see what his next move is going to be, we are going to get hit, and we can always react later and get in again, even if we may lose 1 or 2 hits. One last sword attack, and I'll say that too. Wait, you thought we were done? You think I can let him leave after he forced me to roll? Now is the time of reckoning, and the Gravedigger will learn that I won't forget and I won't forgive. Okay, maybe a bit too edgy, but now that even the secret boss fight is done, I think that it cancels out with me having to dodge at the beginning of the video, so I'll say that you can beat Death Door without dodging. And if you like the video, leave a like or even subscribe. I'll see you next time, well, you'll see me, see the video at least. Why do I always mess up the outro? If I think that Pothead is the second best, who is the best NPC in the game? Well, obviously Jefferson, my beloved.